Let's get right into it. Think about the last time you applied for a job. You hit submit, and then what? What happens? Well, for millions of people, that application is rejected in milliseconds. Literally. An algorithm scans your resume, gives you a score, and poof, you're out. No human ever even saw your name. You're just gone. And you never, ever find out why. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this silent gatekeeper and looking at the hard, cold evidence.
100%. Just let that number sink in for a second. What on earth could that mean in the context of hiring for a job?
Well, that's the rate. A 2024 study from the University of Washington found that when an AI screener was given two identical resumes, I'm talking same skills, same experience, everything, but one had a typically white male name and the other typically black male name, the AI chose the white candidate every single time. 100% of the time. This isn't some bug, you guys. This is the system working as designed. So, yeah. How in the world did we get here?
Okay, so let's talk about the promise versus the reality, because this all started with a really noble idea, right? AI was going to fix hiring, make it fair, make it fast, make it objective. But the reality, well, it's a whole different story.
On the one hand, the promise was this beautiful idea of a true meritocracy, a world where human bias just vanishes. But the reality? It's automated discrimination, and it's happening on a scale humans could never dream of. The promise was efficiency, but the reality is this soul-crushing invisible rejection, where you have no clue why you were turned down. We tried to get rid of human bias, but what we actually built is a bias laundering machine. It takes old, systemic discrimination, washes it through an algorithm, and spits it out looking clean, objective, and, well, unstoppable.
And look, this isn't some far-off, nerdy tech problem. This is the new normal, right now. By 2026, we're talking about pretty much every single Fortune 500 company, 99% of them, using AI to screen you out of a job before a person even lays eyes on your name. Think about that. Your future, your career, is being decided by a machine.
All right, let's get into the hard evidence. Because this isn't just theory or speculation anymore. There's a mountain of research and a tidal wave of lawsuits that are exposing the, let's call it the code of exclusion that's running the show behind the scenes.
So remember that University of Washington study we talked about? That 100% number? That was actually just the most shocking part. When you look at the whole picture, the AI screeners preferred the white-sounding names 85.1% of the time. It's just staggering.
And this is where it gets really, really crucial. The lead researcher, Aileen Kaliskin, pointed out something called intersectional harm. What she found was that the bias wasn't as simple as, say, a penalty for being black plus a penalty for being a man. No, the AI was creating this unique, supercharged penalty specifically against black men. The harm was literally greater than the sum of its parts.
And all of this has triggered a legal earthquake. Seriously, lawsuits are popping up everywhere. The government just settled its first ever AI discrimination case. It was against a company called iTutor Group, which literally programmed its software to automatically reject older applicants. And then there's the big one, Mobley v. Workday. It's now a nationwide class action lawsuit. We're talking about millions of job seekers. The courts are finally starting to say, hey, you are responsible for your code. It feels like the Wild West era of unaccountable algorithms might finally be ending.
So you're probably asking the same thing I was. How does a machine, a bunch of ones and zeros that's supposed to be totally neutral, how does it learn to be biased? Well, the answer is disturbingly simple and really, really flawed.
It all comes down to this idea called proxy discrimination. See, you don't tell the AI, hey, don't hire people of a certain race. Of course not. Instead, the AI just learns. It learns that things that seem totally neutral, like your zip code or what school you went to, or even if you have a gap in your resume, are highly correlated with things like race or class. They're proxies. So the AI uses those proxies to make decisions, achieving the exact same discriminatory result without ever looking at your race directly.
And it creates this vicious cycle. Here's how it works, step by step. First, you feed the AI tons of a company's old hiring data. And guess what? That data is already packed with decades of human bias. Second, the algorithm crunches all that data and learns that certain proxies, like living in a certain neighborhood or going to a fancy school, are linked to who the company hired in the past. Third, it starts automatically downgrading new applicants who have those same proxies. And now for the really terrifying part, step 4. Those new biased rejections get fed back into the system as new data. It's a feedback loop from hell. reinforcing and amplifying the original bias with scary efficiency.
Okay, enough with the technical stuff. This isn't just about data points and feedback loops. Let's talk about the real people, the real harm, the actual consequences for folks who are just, trying to get a job.
This is Derek Mobley. He's an African-American man, he's over 40, and he has a disability. He applied for more than 100 jobs that use Workday's AI screening tool. He was rejected from every single one, never even got an interview. He is the face of this massive lawsuit that is challenging this whole broken system.
Or how about this one? This is a case from the ACLU. A deaf, indigenous applicant does one of those AI video interviews with a company called HireVue. She gets rejected. And the feedback the AI gave her, she needed to practice active listening. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's just absurd and cruel. It's what happens when you have systems that have zero understanding of human context.
And what's wild is that with the newer AIs, the LLMs that power things like ChatGPT, the bias is getting even weirder and more complicated. New research is showing that these models sometimes have what you could call a pro-female bias. They actually score resumes from both white and black women a little higher than an identical resume from a white man. But, and this is a huge but, look at that last bar. They still penalize black men, scoring them way lower. So you've got this bizarre paradox of the AI trying to overcorrect in one area while still leaning on these deeply baked-in stereotypes in another.
So, the big question, right? If the damage is so obvious and the evidence is piling up, why is basically every major company using this stuff? And that brings us to the real problem, the system itself.
I mean, it's the core contradiction of this whole thing, isn't it? The bias is so obvious, yet 99% of top companies are diving in head first. Why? Well, the answer is that the system is, in a lot of ways, designed to fail people.
For starters, the laws are a complete mess. It's a total patchwork. In California, a law might require meaningful human oversight for an AI hiring tool, but drive a few states over, and that same tool is totally legal with no oversight at all. You've got New York City mandating public bias audits, while a state like Texas basically says you can't sue for unintentional bias. So an algorithm can be illegal in one city and perfectly fine in another. It's chaos for companies and leaves job seekers totally in the dark.
And it goes deeper than that. You've got the black box problem. A lot of the time, even the people who built the AI can't tell you exactly why it rejected someone. Then you have the vendors, the companies selling the AI. They use these legal loopholes to say, hey, our tool is neutral. It's the employer's fault if their data's biased. They just pass the buck. And maybe the biggest reason of all, companies buy this tech for the illusion of being fair. It looks good, it looks objective, and that creates a massive incentive to just not ask too many hard questions.
Which brings us to the biggest, most important question of all. In this new world we're building, who actually gets to decide your future?
Now, the law is starting to catch up, and this quote, this is from the judge in that huge Mobley versus Workday case. It's a bombshell. The court is basically saying you can't just hide behind a piece of software. You can't outsource discrimination to a machine and wash your hands of it. A decision made by code is still a decision, and it has to follow the same civil rights laws as a decision made by a human being.
But look, that legal battle is going to take years to play out. And in the meantime, millions of us are getting screened by these systems every single day. So the question remains, when the algorithm says no, who do you even appeal to? When the gatekeeper is just a line of code and its decision feels final, what do you do? Where do you go?
This isn't some dystopian movie. This isn't a problem for our kids to solve. It is happening right now, to millions of people. And the first step to fixing a system this broken isn't to blindly trust the code, it's to question it. And that starts by really understanding how it works, and more importantly, who it's working against. If you found this important, please share it. Let's get the word out.